the solar coaster. Come along for the ride, yeah. The solar coaster's rolling, it feels so right. Hop on the solar coaster. Come along for the ride.
Aloha, my name's Anna Kover, and this is the Solar Coaster, the wild ride through the solar industry told by the people who are living it every day. In the hot seat with me today is Steve Shaer of Atlantic CRM and Cloud Solutions. Let's get this party started. Steve, tell me, when did the sun first shine on your solar parade?
Oh boy, I've been building software systems for solar companies for about 8 years at this point. I got, sort of as always, things are serendipitous. One solar company leads to another solar company, leads to another solar company, and suddenly you're an expert. So,
So, what is one of those, every ride has its highs and lows. What was one of your, hands in the air best climbs that you can remember so far?
well, so much of the business is or has been driven by net metering rates and tax benefits of solar, right? So I'm certainly like plenty of people in California have been riding this merry-go-round of what net metering rates the California utilities will pay, and as a result of that, there's an entire segment of the market that's motivated by I want solar so that I can save money. The group that I want solar that I can save money today, of course, is a valley, as the federal government is doing away with these tax benefits, but that's no longer an economic scenario that makes much sense. So now we're back to the energy security sub-market, which are the people who don't want to be dependent upon their utility for electricity and are concerned about electricity for, in case of storms and whatnot.
Oh, sure.
Uh, right. So that's sort of how things are morphing today. But I've also been, in fact, you and I spoke about this a few weeks ago, is I think driven by artificial intelligence and Bitcoin and all the rest, we are in a situation where the price of electricity is being driven up and up and up. That within a few years, I don't think the solar industry will need a tax benefit to re-engage with the subgroup of potential homeowners
I think
that
you're
are
right.
interested in
I
saving.
think that even today, I think that you had mentioned something to me that I really stuck with me about this convergence that's occurring. And it is the convergence of technology prices coming down, right? There's and batteries are cheaper than ever, right? There's more
Every day.
manufacturing panels in America, things like that, even with the tariff, right? The utilities are going up. I think you're in Florida there. The utility said that they want to increase it by another 30%. Of course, it's not even touching what we have here in Hawaii, but still it's on the rise.
Our weather isn't nearly as good as yours weather. Even in Florida, we're jealous of your Hawaiian weather.
Yeah, and then, on top of that, this tax credit step down or cancellation, we'll call it, really has created an environment where the solar sales bro, which I talk about a lot in my book, and the need to get them out of, the industry because they're really tainting what's happening, right? They can no longer charge $10,000 commission, or price gouge a consumer. And to collectively with these three things, not overcharging, technology coming down, and utility going up, right there, we're at that 30%.
Precisely right. Precisely right. So I think that um, solar will be on an upswing again within the next year or two with new sales models, new efficient sales models. And the technology will be better. The number of panels you need for the same amount of system will be fewer. So the installation will be less. All these things will fall into an alignment of lower cost, higher cost of electricity, lower sales costs. And Anna, you're 100% correct. The number of major sales driven national solar companies that have gone bust, that are driven by, the sales bro, the solar bro, whatever you want to call it, In the solar industry, I mean, they're all over the place.
I
It's
think it's
littered.
putting in solar hose.
That
Out
works
there on the
great.
streets cuddling themselves and they're,
Precisely, precisely. They just haven't figured out how to use OnlyFans to make it work for them. But yeah, and so that's what the future is. And I think that the solar companies that have figured out how to stay around are going to reap an unbelievable benefit in 2 or 3 years. And it's not about the politics. This is not a political question or anything like that. If a Democrat gets back in, will there be a tax credit? Possibly, but not nearly as big because it's not necessary.
yeah.
It's just not necessary anymore. The biggest piece of it is battery technology because all this is occurring at the same time. Um, Net metering rates are going down and down and down because of the duck curve and the flattening out of the duck curve, which I'm sure you've talked about before.
No,
Uh,
actually, no. Tell our listeners what that means.
Sure. So, the idea is that before solar, the amount of electricity used per hour during the day, okay, was sort of like the profile of a duck, they used to say. Why, I'm not sure. But let's say between 4 and 5 o'clock in the morning, your local utility wasn't generating much electricity or selling much electricity because everybody was sleeping and there was nothing going on.
Sun rises and then they're not like they're gonna go to school or work.
Right, exactly. So people get up, they start taking showers, and the hot water heaters kick in, and they're turning on the lights, and they're turning on the this, and people are making
Coffee
breakfast,
makers, yes.
coffee makers, breakfast, exactly. And then through the course of the day, the commercial peak of electricity occurs because people are going to their offices and turning on the lights and the AC and or the heat or whatever in the office building or the store or the factory. So during the course of the day, the amount of electricity used is peaking, and then it's time to go home, and people are making dinner and giving the kids a bath or whatever the heck it is, back to 10, 9, 10, 11 o'clock at night as things taper off. And you see this where, for example, utilities today will often offer special rates to people with electric cars. If you charge your car during a non-prime hour, they'll give you a lower rate. So people,
Or you
utilities will be able
obviously use power during the high peak demand times, you get charged a fee, right?
to
Demand.
exactly.
Yeah.
But then came solar. And when they came solar was, well, that daytime window, there was a tremendous amount of electricity being generated by solar, both residential, rooftop, let's say, um, and the utility-based solar farms, such that there was an excess of electricity during the day. You think about it is a consumer puts rooftop solar, they're not home to use all that electricity. So what are they doing? They're trying to sell it back to the utility, and the utility doesn't want it anymore because they have so many homes and solar farms generating solar electricity during that peak period, let's say between 10 a.m. and 3 p.m. or something like that, is they have more electricity than they know what to do with.
They're like, keep it.
Right.
Well,
Well, they don't.
transformers, right? I mean, you can't even transmit that much power back, with our
100%.
with our infrastructure. Yeah.
100%. So what's happened in places like California, this NEEM thing that they've got over there, which I don't know what it stands for, but
Net metering. Net
oh,
metering.
okay, that was easy. Um, is that they're not going to offer anybody any money for selling electricity back to them during that peak period. So in the past, the guys, the bros and hoes who were selling solar, they would do this magnificent financial analysis and say, well, you save X amount of dollars from your electric bill, okay, when you use electricity during the day. And when you're not using electricity during the day, where at work and whatever, kids are at school, you're going to make, X, $100 or whatever the heck it is from the utility who's going to be buying all that excess electricity from you. Well, that piece of the equation has gone away, right? So it's no longer about that. So what's the answer to that? The answer to that is store it. You want to store it during the day and you want to use it when you would ordinarily buy back electricity,
And that
which
brings us
is
to a very important differentiation that I talk about a lot in my book,
okay.
and I've heard, is the difference between battery backup and energy storage. Because there's a huge difference in the way you sell it, right? Because if you're selling, and especially in California, we've seen this happen too, where depending on this solar sales bro or hoe or whatever, or professional, right? Like a real pro, right? Bro, hoe,
Or pro.
so the pros are really saying, okay, homeowner, are you looking to save money, which is energy albatross, meaning we need energy storage, right? You have batteries are for summer, right? And then you need to have demand. We have to have, a rate plan, or we have to have thought about when we're going to use the battery, switch to it, and when we're going to not switch to it, versus battery backup, where, hey, we're not going to use it to offset. Because if we did, by the time your duck, is going to bed, then there's nothing left in the battery to take them through the night, because they would have been using it during the day to offset these peak times, right? So then you need more battery if you're going to do energy albatross. Versus battery backup is like, okay, oh no, all I care about is if there's a brownout or if the power goes out, that my refrigerator, I'm not going to lose $700 worth of groceries, or my grandmother, she can breathe in her room because of the air conditioning, whatever that is, right? And there's a few
Unless she has a big estate, which case, yeah, it's a whole bunch of stuff for sale.
in my mind, she was like a little granny in like a little, in back room breathing.
You haven't met my mother. You haven't met my mother. So,
Yeah, but then it becomes like really important that I think that's another way to weed out these poor salespeople, because that's real math that's required, and real sales sustaining to really understand, who is this customer, and will they be able to afford another battery because they do want, what's the benefit there of the energy albatross?
exactly. So, if you do the math hard, you can figure out that it might still, from an economic perspective, still make sense to buy some electricity from the utility when your battery goes dead. So you're charging up your battery during the day. You're using your battery up between 6 p.m. and 9. But for electric heat and the AC running at night, you're still using utility electricity. Might be better than getting a second battery,
Maybe.
but it doesn't solve the problem of the hurricane coming and knocking out electricity, or the ice storm which comes in Houston, for example, where they had all these crazy ice storms in the past few years. So
We know they'll
uh,
come again, right? I mean,
and they
like,
know will come again, but it's interesting, right? So you see all these different hybrid solutions as a result of that. We have a situation here. I'm in Florida where people might use a gas generator um, for backup in the case of a hurricane. But the problem is everybody's got a gas generator on that line. And if there is a hurricane, there's not enough gas in the gas line because everybody's turned on their generator. Oh yeah, there's that. Or if you have a diesel generator, you can't get diesel. So you've got, 2 days, 3 days, 4 days worth of diesel, and you're not going to be able to get a delivery because the gas stations don't have access to it either.
flying around the block, right? And different,
Exactly.
yes, yeah.
Exactly.
Are you
So
part of the EcoFlow?
the EcoFlow, tell
EcoFlow,
me.
it's like I was when I was at RE Plus, it's a new company, and they're gonna, I think, like, they have a real rival to Span, and I have a Span on my house, but it's like double the amount of circuits, but they have like smart storage solutions and generators that are you can charge with electricity,
Mhm.
standby generator you can take with you. And I think that Enphase also had one, but theirs, what was really cool is it has intelligence in it. So, because like someone like, I mean, even me, and I could consider myself pretty savvy, wouldn't be able to know, like, okay, how much usage did I use, or how much do I have left? Like, Span will tell me in the event of a blackout or a brownout, like, oh, you have this much power left, right? In your
Yeah,
must
Powerwalls.
pounds. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, Powerwalls do it. In fact, Powerwalls, one of the really nice things about the Tesla Powerwall, certainly not a surprise, is that when there's a hurricane warning, Tesla will send out a signal to the battery to not discharge. Right? So come 6 o'clock, it's gonna say, "No," you see, of course, you set it up for yourself. It'll send out a signal to your battery, "Don't discharge, stay fully charged. Storm is coming." Okay, use the circuit, electrical utilities electricity as long as possible.
But the problem, and that's great, but the problem that I have with Tesla on its own, without one of these smart solutions like a span or something like a solar edge, smart home, is that it's not helping you decide how to use that power. Right? It's like, hey, once it's out, I mean, you can't turn off circuits on your own, right? Like
Yeah.
that's what I use like love about the span. I can say, okay, and I have a list of like must-haves, like lights and electricity, refrigeration, nice to have air conditioning, definitely don't need EV charging, washing machine, oven, right? Sauna. Right. So when this event happens and the power goes out, the span says, okay, and it shuts off circuits that I've had identified already for me, and it connects with the Tesla, so it like knows how much power I have. But even then, like, what the EcoFlow is now going to do is say, give people like a real, like, let's say you're like, you know what, I want to save money next week on my bill. Bill's going up, but maybe I didn't make as much money in commissions as I thought I was going to, selling whatever, roofing, and I need to save some money. The span or your Eco Home app will say, oh, you can, this is your plan to save money next week on your electric bill. Like, you're gonna do 1 load less of laundry. We're gonna, turn
Right.
this
Or you do your laundry during the day at 3 o'clock when you have excess.
apply that plan, or the rate changes have happened, and we're gonna sell at this time, or,
Yeah.
so that we don't really have to think about it, because I think even then, like, yeah, I mean, when I first got my batteries, I would thought I was like, and I had my 2 spans. I had like 1 span, 2 batteries. I was have my second solar system, and I thought, "This is gonna be great. Like, I'm never gonna be off grid ever." And then very quickly after that, I wake up one day and all the lights are dark, and I get up really early, and I'm still like, "Oh, I have nothing to worry about," right? And I'm down at my gym on the bike, and all of a sudden, the lights go off, and I'm like, or my TV goes off, and I'm like, "What's happening?" What setting is wrong? I mean, this is just a television. It can't be much power, right? And then I make the fatal error of, oh no, I think to myself, oh, as soon as the light comes back on, it'll kick in, the solar will take over, and I'll be fine. And so when that did, I went and jumped in the shower, and that amount of power, it could go on the shower heat, but then it took all the battery, drained it below the 5% that the battery
Yeah.
Tesla had, and then couldn't restart it, right? I had to do like a hard restart. So I was like, wow, so just thinking like about the regular consumer and how are they going to navigate all this?
It's a good point. It's a good point, right? I mean, the analogy between that and people's home computer, smart people will lose their hard drive and not have a backup. I thought I set that up 3 years ago. I've been paying Carbonite all this time, and lo and behold, there's nothing on it. um, so it's true. I mean, these are more technical solutions for the home that require more care, but they're just not, it's not just a shrink wrap solution that just knows. And maybe this is an excellent application for AI. Who knows? We can just take care of this for you entirely.
That's exactly how theirs works. It's an AI like solution that's like monitoring, because it knows all your power because it has all the circuits. And then it knows what you have, and then it knows the utility rates, and it's making these decisions. And I think I actually, you brought up AI before, and I think that's an interesting segue as to, because everyone's thinking to themselves, how can we have support all this AI? Right? We don't have enough power, and it's just growing. But I had another guest on my other podcast, the Cover Code, who was mentioning kind of how AI is evolving. And one of the things that we're excited about for the next version, right, is that it can basically mitigate it can move its own power around, right? And I was like, well, and it doesn't have to use like, because it's smart enough that it's like, well, I'm not going to use part of this. I'm going to use this part of this, right? And I mean, this needs enough to be running. And I'm not sure that I think the jury's still out on that. What are your thoughts?
The world, I think, has been looking for a way of convincing the Bitcoin farmers and the AI farms, crunching the large language models and whatnot, to only run during the day, back to the duck curve, right? When there's excess solar energy available. But I don't think they look at it that way. I mean, if you think of it as during 8 out of 24 hours, I have really cheap electricity, so I'll just run during those 8 out of 20. No, I just have my whole day electricity is lower. It's like a discount on the whole day, right? I have a 8-hour window where I'm paying almost nothing for electricity. So my whole calculation for my annual electricity goes down if I'm using, current. So, I don't know, but I'd like to think that as commercial scale and utility scale solar really gets cheap, okay, because that's a fraction, okay, of what consumers pay, right? So, the number always bandied about in consumer is $3 a watt or whatever. That utilities with a big farm that they're putting out there are paying less than a buck a watt, I'm gonna say, and probably,
35 cents.
it's probably 35 cents or some ridiculously low amount.
Like 36
Oh,
cents, like the nation average, I think.
right. So you're like, wow, at that level, you got to believe that batteries and the rest become trivial. So I like to think that that's the way it's going. But having said that, okay, having said that, why is it that every supermarket from Key West, okay, to Honolulu, across the Sun Belt of the entire U.S., just look at the U.S. market, of course, doesn't have solar on their roofs? It doesn't make any sense at all to me because their duck curve is exactly proper profile for it, right? You think supermarket, well, they turn the lights on at 7 in the morning. Okay. They have people opening the refrigerator doors and the ice cream, buying their ice cream and their frozen pizzas, throughout the course of the day. Um, and they're open till 9 or 10 o'clock at night, and then they're turned off again with all the refrigerator door closed. So you're like, it seems like that's a great application for solar with batteries, but it's not happening.
Yeah.
Why is that not the case?
Well, and I think that there's this bad press. I mean, that's kinda, I had someone I interviewed in my book, that her name is Bernadette, and she does legislation in California. She was part of the movement of, getting Arnold Schwarzenegger to sign the law, and she's been doing it for 20 years. And she talked a lot about, how the utility company actually hired a publicist, to spin this story about the rate fees, right? And I think just in general, every time something goes bankrupt, like the Sonovas, the SunPowers, the Titans, right? There's a huge wave of bad press that comes out, like that Times Magazine article that came out last year, right? And when it really bothered me, because when you're looking at it and you're reading it, it sounds like this catastrophe, right? We're looking at like there's only what 5% of rooftops in America have solar, 5%, like total. Right. So of that 5%, we're talking about probably a 3% of that 5% that had a bad experience. Right. Or maybe got frauded, maybe a little higher. But, and that taints the whole industry. People are like, oh, I'm not going to get screwed over by solar.
But
Um,
um, now, a large supermarket chain. Okay, I'm in Florida. Publix is the big chain. Zero solar. I'm sure they have a couple of test areas. They have
do they own their own
1,300
buil-
stores.
do they own their own buildings, or they like? I think
It
that's
doesn't matter. They can work this out with the landlord. What do you
yeah.
think? What do you think? They're gonna move? Let's be
Are they,
realistic.
let's see, are they inside? Are they cornerstones of malls? Or are they freestanding?
Both. Okay, they either cornerstones of strip centers or they are freestanding. The one near me happens to be freestanding, and the other one.
Freestanding, I think that's a no-brainer, right? I mean, like, even more so than the strip mall because that, more complications there.
But but
But
it
yeah,
just means the deal is a little bit more complicated to make.
yeah,
It's not like the shopping center owner has got another option.
true.
Okay,
Yeah.
it's not like another supermarket. If it's not them, there'll be another supermarket.
Well, and they
It's
could
the
be
spot.
a utility company, right? That's the thing I think where we're not selling it right. It's like,
Thank you.
hey, mall, do you want to be a utility company and you can
Exactly.
sell power to all these people and then go take it a level up and put EV charging out front and then sell electric charging to people who come there and then create more demand because people are going to come there to charge their cars? And people are like, yes. Or, you think that would be the exact thing that a landlord would want.
It's it's mind-boggling that that's not happening. it's really mind-boggling that that's not happening, I fly a small plane, fly all over the state, my small plane, and look out the window, and you look at, where the solar panels are, just out of curiosity, and they're just shocking on the commercial space, shocking, it's really shocking. Now, I think what the secret to this is, and I have no data to support this, I presume that a large supermarket chain has cut a special deal with the utility because they know that if the supermarket chain goes solar, they're screwed.
Mhm.
So look at it that way, which is are the utilities cutting special deals with big users of electricity?
We know that that's true because and because there are there's utility rate structured net metering. Okay, so a rate structure net metering for it's just for commercial, right? So just kind of like how you have like a 1-to-1 like you talked about, and in Hawaii we don't have, we have, but now we just have CGS plus, which means consumer plus grid supply, which was 10 cents, and but that's filling up, right? So it'll be nothing. But different places have different rate plans, and one part of that is the buyback rate from the utility. And those are structured incentives, right? Or plans. And you can negotiate that with the utility company in many states. So I think you're probably right. Like maybe in Florida, they have some negotiation, which would be interesting depending on if they're privately, publicly owned. Like there are about 100 nonprofit or municipal
Yeah, co-ops or whatever.
co-ops, thank you, that's the word I'm looking for, around America. The rest are privately held, right? So if it's privately held, then would that be, I mean, but it's a true it's a monopoly, would that be considered ethical? I mean, I think that the line's blurred here, you know? But,
Certainly nowadays, yeah.
yeah.
So that's a really interesting question. So I think the biggest untapped, and I don't know what the answer is, but I'm really curious to find out what the answer would be on the lack of penetration in the commercial space, particularly large scale retail, Walgreens, CVS, big national chains.
Maybe again, it's the way we're selling it, right? As an industry, like the way we're targeting it, the way we're selling it, maybe that needs to change. Maybe there's not enough, almost like the Got Milk campaign. We need like a commercial solar brand awareness campaign, right? That's gonna go out there. Or, you get the attention of I was, really excited about, like, so the movie, Minions, there's the Minions with Drew, but
Yeah.
the Minions 4 movie, Drew,
Didn't
he
know
was
there
a
was a 2.
yeah, he's a solar panel sales he's going undercover, right? And they had to give him a fake identity, and he's a solar panel salesman. And I, like, almost fell off my chair. I was like, "This is exactly the kind of stuff we need." We need to be, like, talked about more. I mean, you think about the how long of a journey it's been for oil and gas and how deep they are embedded into communities. I mean, there's some rural areas that had they put out, I can't remember what state it was. I want to say Louisiana, but I can't remember, where they put out cartoons about how, oh, if people go solar, then Timmy the bus won't be able to take kids to school anymore, right? I mean, so
Uh,
things like that are are
yeah,
are are polluting the minds of the consumer mix, and I think
sure.
we have to do something to change the way we're selling it.
I 100% agree. There was an article in the Wall Street Journal this week about wind power in Alberta, yeah,
Oh,
which is a super windy place,
oh.
but it's also an oil and gas place, and a lot of jobs are so all of a sudden, they're, coming up with new like, which I always really, find so amusing. The oil and gas industry is bringing up issues of the environment for the alternative energy industry because they're such experts. Um, so,
That's when hell freezes over. You're like,
exactly. So, uh, yeah, so without a doubt, that's, it is very interesting. Now, that's a real cause for concern in certain circumstances. I'll give you an example, like the Bahamas. So what you have in the Bahamas are very small power generation plants, typically diesel, that power a small island. Well, you know, the percentage of fixed cost involved in creating an electrical utility for the whole island is such that if the large users of electricity go solar, that cost has to be spread around to the remaining people, and that's going to be very, very expensive electricity for them. So there is an issue of, you know, just because you want to use the um, utility power, between the hours of midnight and 6 a.m., that doesn't mean you get a free pass on the infrastructure that's sitting at your house during the other 18 hours during the day. And by the way, if it's really cloudy and rainy and it's stormy, you want to use that electricity during that period too. So that level of infrastructure has to be in place for, those, excuse me, those people.
Yeah.
So it is also a concern to a degree. But we talk about how inexpensive utility scale solar is. Incrementally, it's such a small amount of money. The time will come when we can have uh, gas gas power stations sitting idle during the day and turning on in the evening. The
Well,
math, I think, will still work.
so much. Did you watch the show Landman?
Yes.
Okay, so I thought, and I had another guest on my other podcast, and he's in Texas. He specializes in oil and gas investment. His name's Jay Young. And, because there are tax incentives for oil and gas, right? Still.
Yes. Still,
And
yeah.
and he reiterated to me just how, and I thought that show was really, really, I thought important for me to watch because I didn't realize how much oil and gas is in like everything we use, but everything has it.
Right. Right.
Hair products, I mean, everything has oil and gas in it. I mean,
Mhm.
clothing, I mean, just there's hardly anything you can look at that doesn't have some remnants of oil and gas in it.
Absolutely.
So it's never going to go away. And that's not, I think, what we're trying to say as an industry. It's like we're saying we need all of it. We need all the power. We need nuclear. We need wind. We need solar. We need thermal. We need oil and gas. We need all of it to make this next leap as a society into the future of into our future.
Absolutely, and at the same time, they're also saying this as early in the Wall Street Journal this week or last that the Permian Basin is drying up. We're running out of domestic, easy to get oil and gas in the United States. Well, fine, let's keep getting what we can get, and where it's easy to substitute alternative energy for it, like electricity in the home during the day, then let's use it. Let's use solar and wind for that. Okay. But, we're not trying to do away with plastics. We're not trying to do away with transportation fuel. Another person says, oh, we should have electric battery operated airplanes. Well, that's never going to happen.
No.
There's not enough energy density, in batteries. I mean, they would be explosive
Well,
if
actually,
you
in
had
fact,
them.
so again in my book, The Solar Coaster, I have one of my clients is
Mhm.
E2 Soul, Anthony Barrow, and he's doing some really interesting things with electrification. And one of them is at the airports, right? Because the airports really need to be their own grids, right? Because of their needs and the transportation and the and so what
Sure.
he's working on now is for commuter airports where we call it here in Hawaii a puddle jumper, right? Like a little like you just
Yeah, exactly.
Another like a little skipper to the
Island hopper. Yeah.
island hopper, right, thank you. And so those are being replaced with drones now, right? So instead of like a Cessna Caravan, which is about, holds 9 people max and then 2 pilots, those are gonna be replaced with these little commuter drones. And so but then and those are totally fine, they can make short little jumps with a small amount of passengers in them very efficiently. But then the problem is, okay, how do you charge them, right? So he's developed this, patent pending technology that basically delivers the drone lands and it has like a little it's little like a little antenna that kind of comes down and it touches the tarmac and then there is electric current that's being transmitted to it because otherwise you have to have a cable and run it all the way out there. We both know you've lost what 50% of the power.
Well,
I mean,
I was joking. When Amazon or when Costco can deliver to the outer islands of Hawaii by drone, I mean, it's gonna be a shock to the whole retail of all the outer islands. I mean, from what is there only one Costco in Hawaii, in Honolulu, I think?
No,
I
it's
mean,
more than that. It's there's I'm not sure, there's Costco's all over. Like actually the Costco in Hawaii Kai here does more business than like it's one of the top producing Costco's in like the whole world or whatever.
right.
Which is weird because we have so little people. But yeah, no, Costco, we do have Costco's on, I think, every island now.
Oh, well, that could be, but nonetheless, the idea of using drones for a whole new model of package delivery,
Absolutely.
is in a place like Hawaii is fantastic because it just solves so many issues.
Yeah. Want to ask you before we, since we have, not, we've got 20 minutes left here, and I want to ask you some questions about roofing, right? Because I know that you're a roofing expert. And so, it's where do we see the future going? I know we've talked offline about, and I thought they're fantastic conversations about how are the solar companies going to survive? There's going to be a big shift. A lot of people are dropping out. I have many clients who are now looking to expand into roofing and service. Tell me about what you're seeing in the market and how people can consider this what's the pairing.
I think what people think, people look at it, the sales models of roofing and solar are similar, which is sort of a door-to-door, sit across from the homeowner in the living room sales model. So there's a certain similarity to that. Roofing is really much more of a craft. Now that means to say is you need to know what you're doing or it's a disaster. Uh, but you could buy that craft. So it's not so for a solar company to go get a guru with 20, 30 years of experience as a foreman to help make those tough decisions about the little nuances of how this particular roof problem needs to be solved. You can acquire that. So that's not so much an issue. Um, I'm not a big fan of solar shingles. Uh,
You mean the Enershock? You talking about like the building integrated design, like a solar, like a shingle that's energized? Are we talking about
yes, the solar that's yeah, exactly. Like Tesla makes and like
GAF or
GAF
yeah.
and other other ones are either have or have it in the pipeline. Um, I just think that you're giving up too much efficiency for it to be worthwhile as an energy augmentation for your home.
Hmm.
You're never going to generate anywhere near the same amount of electricity as you would if you have, as we call them, glass panels on your roof.
Sure.
Um, and I think that's critical. I think that's critical, and I'm also concerned about the repairability of them.
Hmm.
That's an issue that I have. The beautiful thing about solar glass panels is they're not terribly expensive to buy a new one if it dies, and it's not terribly expensive to disconnect it and chuck it.
Now,
Uh,
yeah, microinverters especially when it was like straight.
exactly.
Now it's like just like snap on, snap off. These.
Right. Click, click, you
Yeah.
unscrew, with a ratchet set, you unscrew the clips to the rails and you throw it off the roof. You can hand it the new panel, you slap it down, tighten it up, and you just plug it in, literally like you're plugging in an outlet, and off you go to the races.
Right.
And there's no issue with mismatch of wattages or anything like that. It normalizes. It's not a big deal. So um that's I think a very, very big issue. I think that solar roofing is like a shtick. People need a new roof, and they're also thinking about solar. So they say, "Oh, I'll get a solar roof. That's a great idea. I'll kill two birds with one stone." Then they go find out how expensive it is. Then they go find out, you know, the fact that it's really difficult to get financing on.
Mhm.
Okay. And then they find
Found
out
out with our friends in Texas.
we did find out that for the friends in Texas.
We
Exactly.
won't. Their name won't be mentioned in this.
Exactly. And and then they look at the efficiency of it and they say, well, if I got, traditional roof and I put solar on, or if I got really smart, I got a metal roof and I put solar on top of the metal roof, I have a much better house envelope situation, i.e., what the traditional roofing provides, and I have a much better aesthetically. Is it an issue? Maybe.
Well, yeah, I think
That's
you bring up a good point though. Like, I think that the Tesla, what we learned about Tesla is, yeah, people are buying it for this allure, like this almost, it's like, the
bragging
curbside
rights.
appeal, like
Yeah.
exactly, like for the statement of it. But it was, no financing would touch it, so expensive, replacing these shingles really hard. One thing though that I like about, and then I think this goes back to the way you sell it, the GAF product is the way that it could be sold, right? Is it's not, and it should never be sold as this is the replacement of solar. This is like, they only really, to make it really, usually 20% of the roof they energize of the bill, right? So it's not like a whole 100%. Like, it's to your point, like it's impossible to get, but it can be very, very fast to install, like the staples, like no penetration in the roof. And, if it comes step into your shingle warranty, and you're getting like, if you're in a low producing, or, where tower's cheap, and people are like, why go get solar when I only pay 11 cents a kilowatt hour or 7 cents a kilowatt
Yeah.
hour? Now it's like, oh, well, hey, you could offset 30% of your bill and get the roof at the same time, and they'll finance it. So then I think it makes sense, right? But
Yeah,
don't
I think
go
so.
in that way.
I think so. I think you could be right on that as well. I didn't realize that the GF product, carried the same warranty that their Landmark Pro, whatever they call it. And GF makes a very good roofing product. I wouldn't say, top tier, on anybody's list. If they offer it with the same warranty as their regular product,
But
that's
there's no
interesting.
storage, right? I mean, like, I don't think that there's they don't have any, to my knowledge, yet, a storage component. There is some, I think that you can get storage with it, but again, then you're right back to what is the purpose of this investment? But I think, but what I was going toward, because so many dealers now are struggling, right, to how they're going to stay afloat, is the idea that the roofing was way more roofs. What didn't you tell me? It was like 3 million roofs a year that are installed in America versus, like, it was some crazy new,
Yeah.
your roof is leaking. And now in places like Florida and some others, like some homeowners insurance is saying that within 10 years, you have to replace your roof, right?
Right.
So now, people like solar is like a luxury. People are like, yeah, maybe one day. But when your roof has to be updated or is leaking, you're calling someone and you're making that decision today. And now
Yeah.
you have that trust. So I think that it's a clear holding pattern for installers, not the solar sales guys, but the installers, maybe even the sales guys, if they can find people to sell roofs to, I don't know, but to really like get a good lead to sell them both.
Absolutely, because I think that, they can prove themselves, um, they can prove themselves in the roof and prove themselves to be a good, reliable company, and develop a relationship through the roof. Selling them the solar is gonna be downhill. Besides the fact is it's gonna be a lot more efficient to sell it that way,
Yeah.
right? So, again, it comes back to, can we get the cost of customer acquisition down? Because we need to get the whole solar solution down. How can we get the CAC down? That's, a large part.
I wonder about that. Actually, now you brought that up. Like, I think another thing that to consider is that we were also kind of roofers, because I have, so it goes both ways, right? I have roofers who then started solar, and then I got solars who are now starting roofing, right? But the tax credit also did help roofers too. Because we would say it, I know it was a great line. I can see you like, oh no, but like, and I had dealers who would kind of push it, but any roof that was underneath, that was new, that was underneath the solar would qualify for the tax credit, right? And some people went a little further, but as long as like under $8 a kilowatt, then, combined, that usually didn't flag anything with the IRS, right? But now with the new ITC coming to a close, will that also influence people's decision to add solar with the roof? Probably. Or get solar at
I
all.
think so.
Yeah.
I I think you're right. That whole sales channel is gonna break down. So you have to be it goes back to the same thing, which was, um, are they buying it for energy security? What premium are they willing to pay for energy security? Are they buying it for, "Let's save money"? If you're buying it to save $50 a month, $100 a month on your electric bill, I don't know about that, right? But energy security, what's $100 a month? $1,000 a year for energy security? Yeah, that's worth, I mean, there are all sorts of ways to look at that. Look, I don't have solar on my house, okay? There's a reason. I have a Spanish tile roof.
Oh, yeah.
I know how hard, and I have, exposed roof joists, right? So I don't have a drop ceiling at all. So I have, also nearly a 100-year-old house. So I'm not exactly looking forward to them, drilling into my roof joists. And if they miss, creating a complete disaster and screwing up on my tile roof, the risk of a leak is just too high for the dollar savings,
Sure.
right?
So let me ask you a question, since we only have 10 minutes left. How can, with technology, because this is we're gonna entering a crisis period. Yes,
Yep.
Q4, it's fat and happy. But as we go into next year, what are ways, do you have recommendations on how they can use technology to become more nimble or to have better targeting? I mean, we see lead companies going out like back to back. CEE, Clean Energy, one known as one of the largest and big, is shutting down. People are now there's no rules. I mean, it's like the Wild Wild West. What are your thoughts on, acquiring leads and then using speed to lead or technology to really make sure that no opportunity is missed because it's going to be critical?
That's really the case. I have one client that we've talked about, that's using AI chatbot, which you think, oh, AI chatbot, please. No, here's their thinking. They're thinking speed to lead. They're thinking that of the people who are driven to my website or my squeeze page or whatever, there's a percentage of them, 20%, 30%, 15% who are ready now. They've already made the decision. Okay. And if you don't get back to them fast enough, then they're going to call the next one. So you've got to get them into an appointment as fast as possible. So what they do is they basically triage the leads, and let people, put themselves on a calendar for an appointment so that they can feel satisfied. And they do everything that they can and adjust their marketing spend appropriately to give people appointments within 48 hours. If it's, oh yeah, we can't, give you an appointment till next week, then they're gonna call somebody else, and all of a sudden, you're in a competitive situation, it's all messy. But if I can get them on the phone tomorrow or in an hour, then, hey, that actually might work. That person will I I have an opportunity to cut off any competition by getting them everything that they need really fast. Again, speed to lead. You wanna shut down their drift, shut down their buyer's remorse. Um, Capture their enthusiasm by getting them paperwork into their hands as fast as possible. So speed to lead, more selling over the phone. Okay. There's no question about it. Face to face selling has got maybe a better close rate, one way that you look at it. But if you factor in the number of appointments that don't happen, I don't know that, for an appointment sit, it's got a better close rate. From a lead that comes in, I don't think it has a better close rate.
Yeah.
Right? Because you have more drop off from the lead that comes in up until the sit. Okay. So you haven't factored that in. But if you really factor in from the lead coming in, so I'm filling out the form to close rate versus a high speed Zoom call, okay, and a high speed quote and a high speed contract in their hand, all within 24 hours, I think that's the way to go. And I think, use
You just made me think of something genius just now when you said that. Like, I mean,
Just talk to me more often. If you talk to me more often, I just raise everybody's game. You
I
should
like,
manage your podcast
have
this
someone
every month.
that should just be part of, someone's job requirement today. Like when people are in the office, this is your time to be on, like, how like Go High Level, they have group Zooms
Mhm.
for like support. So you just like enter a Zoom. Like when you're ready to stop talk, you get put into a queue and then you just get assigned to someone right now.
Pool. Yeah,
A
pool.
pool.
Yeah.
They should just have that. It's like, do you want to speak to someone right now? Enter the pool. And to get someone just to talk to. Like, I'll answer your questions right now. I'm human. We'll answer your questions right now within 5 minutes.
Right.
Right? I mean, that
And then
way,
and then then you have an offshore team, okay, that's doing solar quotes.
or your own team, because they're
Or your
sure
team.
pulling their thumbs, crying uncle that the lead's all dried up. Well, here you can, this is your lead. You're gonna be their person now. You're gonna answer the questions. You can drive. I can meet you right now. What's your address? Will get off the Zoom and I will head to your house. I need like 24 hours to do the proposal or not. We can do it together.
Exactly.
That's
Um,
gonna get make the dollars. Why?
And that's going to make the dollars for a segment of the market.
Yes.
Okay. And that's the easiest segment you're ever going to get because it just takes very tight business processes to own that segment. Okay. Now, the other segments get more complicated. They're more competitive. They're talking to more than one solar company. There's this and that. They're dragging their feet. They're not sure. I have to talk to my wife. All these other things that the other segment has to deal with. And that's a different sales process entirely.
Yes.
Um, and requires the drip marketing and the follow up because it might take you 3 months to close that deal
Or more.
or more.
Yeah.
For sure. So you look at it and go, okay, well, let me think about the sales. You know, uh, this is what I always say to customers is, you can't force a customer into your sales process. You have to match your sales process to their buying process. Okay. And different customers have different buying processes, right? Different customers are going to respond more to social proof. Different customers are going to respond more um
Lost aversion. I actually have a whole chapter in my book about behavioral science strategies and how to sell them. So you can
Yeah,
pick up.
I had a meeting with a guy, can't remember his name, big roofing guy out of Texas, and, he had invested money in this company that, would take, a lead, somebody fills in the form, it would run it through their AI model, and it would do, like, uh, a soft pull of their credit, it would do with this, it would do with that, do all this crazy crap to determine things like, the homeowner's probable age, you know, how much equity they likely have in their house, okay? Because they can look at when the house was bought. They can look at the mortgage history. They can use Zillow Estimate to figure out the value of the house today, okay? And they're building all these scenarios about what this customer is, and then they match them to sales reps that do better or worse in these particular situations. Like, oh, right, this guy, he's a veteran. He's a Marine. Oh, we got Bob. He's a retired sergeant in the Marines.
Absolutely.
Well,
Same age.
let's help Bob talk about Marine stuff.
They care about the same things. It's that sensibility. It's kind of like what I had always seen with Solar Wizard, the matching of the what they were looking for in a company. Why now? Right? Everyone wants to save money, but what else is there?
And it's all about that. It's all about, you know, social proof with some, reviews, which are BS anyway, from some random person in Oshkosh, Wisconsin, as opposed to, oh, this guy went to, he went to basic account in Lejeune too, and he was the same year, whatever. Oh, he knew Sergeant, whatever, you
Right.
know, all these, oh, that guy, he can't miss, you know, perhaps women sell better to women. I don't know. I mean, you collect the data to determine it. If you can collect all these data points about a prospect and data points about your sales reps.
Now they have that's the matchmaking dream, like
Right.
that is, I truly believe, the future.
Exactly. Like, senior citizen homeowners shouldn't be sold to by a 22-year-old, or maybe should.
No,
Maybe you've got a 22-year-old who's phenomenal at it
oh, maybe.
for whatever reason.
Usually not. Usually, like you nailed it.
You
Like,
can't make that generalization.
well,
Have the
because
data.
it usually means that people are relating to someone who is like them, right? So unless, I mean, that would be a
I'm really
stretch,
good looking, in which
right?
case,
It could be a stretch, right? But yeah, I mean, I think it's those data points that need to be considered, and as things change, realizing that your sales team also, like, are you giving them the right tools to sell in today's market? Right? When it's not on price or when it's not on the incentive, are they pre-qualifying people out of like, oh, well, the ROI isn't what it used to be. Well, that's your bias of that homeowner. They're going to go with solar with someone, so take the time to make sure that they understand everything about it.
and it's also, I worked for IBM as a scientist back my first job out of college. And occasionally I had to go to the field to meet with a customer with the sales team. And at that point in time, they were all in suits and whatnot. I had a beard. I had even hair on my head. Uh, anyway, they had explained to me that their sales training was that they would literally have 4 different presentations with them at all times. And they would triage the customer or the prospect based upon, things that they see. If this guy looks like an engineer with a pocket protector, well, that's presentation B. Okay. If this guy has got modern art on the wall, that's presentation A. If this
Right.
guy's got pictures of all these kids, that's this presentation or that presentation. And they had, to your point about engineering it, they had engineered presentations, and in their sales training, they had to role play selling to each of these different types of avatars, if you will, um, um, of a different type of prospect. So to answer your question is I think that the more successful um, solar companies, roofing companies, home service companies are using technology beyond operations and into smart um, strategies and tools for more effective selling, being more clever. And it's not about, spending more. It's about being smarter. It's
Yeah.
about, it's about having a 5% better close rate, making sure no lead slips through the tail. I can't tell you the number of
Oh my God.
customers I've been to who just follow up is just like,
It makes me wanna throw up whenever I, like, log into a CRM with a client and I see just the abuse, and this is just we have to treat these leads with respect, like, they mean
it's
something.
money.
Yeah,
It's money.
yeah.
They cost hundreds of dollars. I
Mm,
did a system for a law firm a long time ago that did, like, they call mass torts, like, suing Roundup Chemical for cancer,
sure.
800,000, defendants or
Class
whatever,
action lawsuit.
class action lawsuits and whatnot. They were paying like $2,000-3,000 per lead.
Wow.
It was like it was mind-boggling. I mean, to get somebody into this cost of customer acquisition was in the thousands. And if you look at Google pay-per-click, and just on a lark, look at, for accident attorney, car wreck lawyer or
Oh,
something
it's like
like that.
$150 a click.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's exactly right.
And I
And
know that don't ask me how I know that, but I do. I've looked it up before.
well, I'm sure it's in the, it's in the trade press and stuff. People talk about it all the time. But there's a lot to be learned from them, but they also have a lot to be learned as far as, real follow-up and remembering that there are a lot of customers out there, leads out there who are gonna resurface 3 years from now, and
Yes.
you can recycle those leads. One last story, is I work with a mortgage broker, perfect example. He bought, um mortgage leads, people saying is, checking out the rates or whatever on, uh, a what's a loan tree, mortgage tree, something
Oh, yeah,
tree?
Lone Tree, I think.
Loan tree. Yeah, uh, and he would people would pay $35, let's say, for a lead that was hot from that. He would buy them 6 months old for like 10 cents or dollar. Okay, and then he would market to those. And yes, he had a relatively low, close rate, but it was an easy list to work. It was an easy list because they were not the customer was not as defensive. Okay, it was inexpensive. Okay, and had no competition because all the competition in the first 6 months had disappeared already. So he had open. So he was the last person that they
Right?
were going to talk to. Okay, because everybody else had dropped off.
Right, last man standing. I love that's what like my direct mail, like that really slow drip, the solar assault, like up to 2 years. Like no one else is talking to them, but they're still they shoulda if they shoulda, coulda, still can go solar, you're the one they're gonna remember.
Exactly right. If you look at companies that have a big lead operation, and they've been doing this for many years, you could probably do an interesting analysis of the number of people who have come in recently, who came in 3 years ago and came in 2 years before that, and it's their 3rd rodeo of clicking on a link and filling out a form, okay, and turns into a sale, you know,
That's
it's
right.
true.
And then when people are like, "What are like, reject duplicates," I cringe, right? It's like, well, how let's hold up, we could have multiple duplicates because that's what you're talking about in a CRM, right? And like, what is our protocol? And I mean, I know what your thoughts are, but I think if like a lot of people are like, oh, we want to give it back to the same person they spoke to, absolutely not. They do not deserve this record ever again.
Well, that's exactly right. They could have been calling them all this time,
Yes.
and quite frankly, the lead doesn't even remember them anyway, so it doesn't make a difference. But, I mean, we've done this. We wrote a piece of code for a couple of different CRM systems about lead duplication for just this reason, which is when a lead comes in and it is a duplicate, how do we handle it?
Mhm.
How do we move that lead back to an active status, and how do we add notes to the lead that tell the story about what's going on? So when, the telesales rep picks it up, they can go, "Oh, this person came in 3 years ago and they talked to Fred, and 2 years before that, we met him at a trade show, and, here's their clicking on our monthly newsletter. Here's their click profile on our monthly newsletter.
That's awesome.
Mr. Prospect, yes, this is Joe from, Joe's Solar, whatever. I know that we've spoken to you in the past, and you spoke to Susan a couple years ago. She's actually no longer with us, and but da, 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 in the meantime, she spoke to us a couple years ago. Here's what's going on. That's a hell of a lot easier phone call. I mean, you have instant rapport,
Absolutely.
but the whole point of being able to say, to your point is, which is duplicate lead. Don't accept a duplicate lead. No, 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 accept the duplicate lead, and then bring forward the history and the notes of the previous iterations to the current lead.
Exactly.
Okay.
And the only time you don't accept a duplicate is if it occurs within 30 days of you receiving the lead for the first time or the second
Right.
time.
Then you do something else.
Then
Then
we
do
know
something
someone's
else with
trying to resell you. Like if all of a sudden, and this happens all the time, right? We would get like a lead from solar reviews, clean energy, all at the same time, right? And then people don't have there's no bidirectional API, right? So it can't be returned. It has to be manually returned. I think it's, basically collusion. They're like hoping that people won't, and then if you're not even
Well,
accepting it, you don't know that it's a
that's a
duplicate.
trap.
Oh, it's a trap. And like, I mean, I've
It's
seen
it's a trap.
thousands of dollars.
It's the people who are selling leads are bandits, and there's no two ways about it. Is you think you're getting a good lead for $35, $45, $55? It's not. You think you're getting an exclusive lead for 75? You're not. It's not exclusive. They're going to sell it in a day to somebody else. So
Absolutely. And I think, I mean, and what other people maybe don't know, but we can say it briefly here before we end is the whole thing behind clean energy was that it was set solar in a sun run. You know that.
what's that?
That sun run was basically they're basically the owners of the clean energy
Oh,
experts.
well, oh, well,
And
it's
that
not a
was
big
behind the
surprise.
scenes. So now, I mean, well, and I think that a lot of people kind of are. I was surprised when I found out. Right, this was a couple was like early last year. And did it really matter? Well, not necessarily. But what happened was that they were getting, and the word on the street is that Sunrun was getting the leads as well, right? As well as you're paying for the lead. But now the reason they're going out again, hearsay, is because the market's shrinking because of the tax credits, and Sunrun's going to keep them all internally.
Right. It would be interesting to see the big, Sage, Solar Sage, and whatnot. Would be really interesting, if they were behind the scenes owned by a major solar company, and given the leads were given to that solar company, 24 hours before they were given to anybody else, or something like that.
Right. Well, see, this has been fascinating. So how
It's
can
been
people
fun.
get a hold of you?
Yes, Atlantic CRM and Cloud Solutions, of course. Google search will find it. And my name is Steve Shaer. And if you're in the energy space or looking for a custom solution that really captures either the operations side, particularly in home services or other areas, feel free to give me a shout. I'd love to talk about your needs and how technology can help you move forward.
And a little shout out to Steve. He is, especially with Zoho, there's no one better at Zoho than Steve. He's helped me, many of my clients create custom solutions, and anything is possible. And he's a great guy to work with. He's also, I'm going to be having an article about what Steve does on the solarcoaster.com. So you guys can go there and check it out and be connected with him. And please join me next week as I interview another industry expert on how to survive the roller coaster that is the solar coaster. I'll see you in the pixels then. Aloha.
Where sunshine meets stories and bright futures collide. We're sparking up ideas with laughter and light. The solar coaster's rolling, it feels